Well, apart from defense, the Indian Prime Minister did also indicate, he gave a speech before the US Congress. He also met various American business leaders and CEOs. He's actually currently meeting some of them as we speak. What is the advantage of the Indian Prime Minister, wooing American investors to come and invest in India at this critical juncture?
Well, it's no secret that the United States benefits from Indians who have come to this country. We saw how many Indians were there when the Prime Minister visited the White House. But I can tell you here in California, we have a very large Indian population that's involved in Silicon Valley, involved in technology. And I think that the ability of the Prime Minister to be able to meet with business leaders, with technology leaders, means that he is going to benefit from a relationship that is going to continue to improve not just his economy, but the economy here in the United States. I think if India is going to have the opportunity to continue to grow as an economy, and I think it needs to. I think India has a very strong economy. I think it has to continue to grow that economy in a very effective way. And if it's going to continue to do that, it is very important to reach out to businesses and industries and corporations here in the United States and elsewhere in order to develop those opportunities for India.
Secretary Panetta, we cannot not talk about China when it comes to this visit by the Indian Prime Minister to the United States. Some are calling it a way of the United States wooing India to their side when it comes to combating China or China's aggressiveness. What do you think about that statement?
Well, it's no mystery that India has I think a 2,100-mile border with China, and obviously that's been a border that has had its share of conflicts. I think the most recent conflict occurred in December, and so it is very important from India's point of view to be able to make clear to China that that India is going to do whatever is necessary to protect its security. And I think this meeting between President Biden and President Modi sends a very important message to China that that if they are going to be part of the world's economy, that they're going to have to do it not by being aggressive or by violence or by trying to just have their own way. They're going to be able to develop their economy if they're willing to cooperate with the United States and with India and with other major countries in the world. So I think this is an important message to send to China, that if they really want to be part of an international marketplace, they are going to have to work with people, not try to run over them.
Secretary Panetta, let's talk about the relationship between the United States and China itself. We recently had the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken visiting China for the first time. And then after he returned to America, we had the U.S. President Joe Biden calling the president of China, Xi Jinping, a dictator. Although he says that the relationship is still not that bad, he is willing to meet the president of China, Xi Jinping. When are we going to see this relationship between America and China being recreated, so to speak, or being enhanced, or being, fixed?
Well, I think that we have to recognize that there have been serious tensions between the United States and China. what happened with their intelligence balloons was not helpful. What has happened with their threats on Taiwan has not been helpful. And the end result is that if the United States and China are going to be able to develop a relationship here in the world of the 21st century, they both have to do it from a position of strength, and that's particularly true of the United States. I think it's important for the United States to make clear that there are lines that China cannot cross, that we will defend Taiwan, that we will defend the South China Sea, and that we will do everything we can to make sure that we have freedom of the seas in that part of the world. We need to make that clear. And if we make that clear, that we will stand by those lines, I think we then have the opportunity to develop a dialogue with China on key areas where we can hopefully pursue areas of agreement. There are those areas, whether it's trade, whether it's cyber, whether it's dealing with North Korea and the threat from North Korea. There are areas where we can cooperate and work together. And I think it's in China's interest as well as the United States' interest to be able to have communication between our two countries. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity for President Biden to be able to meet with President Xi, hopefully in November at the APEC meeting in San Francisco, to be able to then try to develop those lines of communication that I think will not only improve the relationship between our two countries,
right.
Frankly, it'll improve the prospect for peace in the world.
Secretary Panetta, allow me to talk about the war in Ukraine. And we also had the Indian Prime Minister address the U.S. Congress yesterday, where he still maintains a neutral stance when it comes to the war in Ukraine. He did say that this is an era of dialogue and diplomacy and not of war. Some critics would say that America is trying to woo India on their side when it comes to this war in Ukraine. What do you think about that statement?
I think that Prime Minister Modi and India have to think long and hard about what's happening in Ukraine. Look, India is a democracy. Prime Minister Modi made very clear that India is a great democracy. But you cannot allow countries like Russia and Putin to invade democracies. And that's exactly what they did, is they invaded a sovereign democracy of Ukraine militarily. No one can support that. No one should stand back and say that that's the right thing to do. We saw what Hitler did in World War II, and we cannot allow Putin to conduct the same kind of invasion in the 21st century. So I'm hopeful that Prime Minister Modi and India will recognize that ultimately they cannot stand back and allow Russia to continue this kind of aggression. I believe in diplomacy. I believe in negotiation. But unfortunately, Putin doesn't believe in that. And he continues this war. Ultimately, I hope we can get a negotiated agreement there. But it means that the democracies of the world have to be unified in opposition to what Russia did.
Secretary Panetta, finally, let's talk about an issue that the Prime Minister also indicated before the U.S. Congress, and he was talking about countering terrorism, where he says that the world must overcome all such forces sponsoring and exporting terror. How can America or the United States help or assist India when it comes to countering terrorism, keeping in mind that Pakistan and India both share a cordial relationship with the United States?
Well, I think it is, it's very important. And I think as part of this meeting between President Biden and Prime Minister Modi, I think there was a discussion about improving our intelligence capabilities together. I can tell you that as CIA director, I had a very close relationship with intelligence officials in India. And I think it's very important to be able to share information regarding the threat of terrorists, wherever they are. If we get intelligence that there's a potential terrorist threat that could affect India, we ought to share that information with India. And very frankly, we ought to work together to try to make sure that that threat is not carried out. And India, frankly, has its own intelligence resources as well. If they determine that there are terrorist threats towards the United States, they should share that kind of information so that we can deal with any threat from terrorism. I think the key to effective counterterrorism is the cooperation of countries that are trying to protect their security and trying to make sure that terrorists never succeed.
I've been talking to Leon E. Panetta, Secretary. He is the chairman of the Panetta Institute for Public Policy and former United States Secretary of Defense. Secretary Panetta, thank you very much for all your inputs and for talking to WION Wild is One today.
Thank you very much, and my best to all of my friends in India.